En el dinámico mundo de la enseñanza de inglés, los maestros siempre han sido la guía clave para el desarrollo de los estudiantes. Pero, ¿qué sucede cuando abrazamos el cambio y nos abrimos a nuevas posibilidades? El mundo está evolucionando rápidamente y la educación debe seguir el ritmo de esta transformación. La tecnología se convierte en la herramienta que desbloquea el potencial de cada estudiante, permitiéndoles explorar y aprender de maneras nunca antes imaginadas. Las distancias se reducen y las conexiones se fortalecen. En este contexto tan cambiante, el aula física y el espacio digital se fusionan de manera innovadora, expandiendo las oportunidades de aprendizaje. Pensando en quienes valoran la capacitación y mejora constante de sus clases, SBS Librería Internacional presenta cada año el Tdc, un evento académico dirigido exclusivamente a docentes de inglés. A todos los maestros que construyen el futuro una lección a la vez, les decimos, bienvenidos al Tdc.
Good afternoon to all the teachers attending the TDC, Teaching Development Conference 2025, organized by SBS Librería Internacional. In this new edition, we meet again through the hybrid format, using tools that allow us to meet with colleagues connected from different parts of our country that I've read here in the comments, but keep telling us where you're coming from. I've read Iquitos, but I'm sure there are people from other cities, Arequipa, Cusco, Trujillo, Piura, Chiclayo, Tacna, Lima, among other cities, and also from different countries. On behalf of SBS Librería Internacional, I would like to thank you for attending this event. We are in a continuous improvement of virtual education, and we are trying to balance our reality to enhance both our virtual and face-to-face classes with amazing tools. At SBS, we have this great opportunity to be in contact with the best publishers in the world, and this makes it possible for us to bring together in a single event some of the best international specialists representing their publishers and institutions, bringing with them knowledge that has been developed in different parts of the world, and to apply it successfully in our English teaching here in our schools, institutes, universities, cities, and countries. Without further ado, I'd like to invite you to watch the following video with me. Let's go, team.
En SBS, Librería Internacional, estamos comprometidos con la educación y la difusión de la cultura a través de materiales físicos y digitales. Somos una de las cadenas más grandes de Sudamérica, orientada a producir y distribuir libros de idiomas, académicos y de interés general, así como bibliografía clásica e imprescindible. Hemos consolidado nuestra presencia en Perú con librerías ubicadas estratégicamente en Lima, Cusco, Arequipa, Trujillo, Piura, Chiclayo, Iquitos y Huancayo. Además de una librería online, donde presentamos una gran variedad de títulos que podrás recibir desde la comodidad de tu hogar, gracias a nuestro servicio de delivery a nivel nacional. Además, acompañamos el desarrollo profesional de maestros a través de eventos académicos y capacitaciones gracias a nuestro programa SBS Advantage Docente. SBS Librería Internacional. Soluciones para quien enseña y para quien aprende.
Thank you. Now I'm going to explain how the certificates of attendance for this event will be issued. You should have already registered, but if you haven't registered, there will be a link here in the comments. So use the registration link. Please make sure to enter your email carefully so that you can receive your certificate without any issues. If you have not yet registered, please do so now. You can still do it. And we will continue welcoming people because I've read people from Cajamarca, from Ayacucho, from Chincha, from many parts of the country. So everybody is welcome. Very good. Now, to start, I want to thank Ricardo Palma University and SBS Librería Internacional for being part of this event. With more than 55 years of history, Ricardo Palma University prepares highly qualified teachers through its specialization program in English language teaching, contributing to educational transformation in our country. Ricardo Palma University. We educate human beings for a culture of peace. Now let's watch this video. Let's go, team.
¿Eres profesor de inglés y buscas que tus estudiantes dominen el idioma? El programa de especialización en enseñanza del idioma inglés de la Universidad Ricardo Palma, PEI, es para ti. Está dirigido a profesores que buscan mejorar sus perspectivas laborales y liderar en la enseñanza de inglés. El contenido del programa ha sido especialmente diseñado para que domines los procesos de enseñanza-aprendizaje de inglés en la era digital. Como estudiante del PEI, tienes acceso a conferencias a cargo de expositores internacionales del más alto nivel. Recibes el material y plataforma digital de forma gratuita. Lo último en la enseñanza del inglés en el programa más completo del mercado. Gracias a su doble certificación, accedes al examen internacional TOEFL ITP de manera gratuita. Cuentas además con una biblioteca exclusiva y préstamo de libros. El programa te permitirá trabajar con niños, jóvenes y adultos. Vive una experiencia única. Las inscripciones ya están abiertas. Únete al PEI y conviértete en líder en esta fascinante área de la educación.
Excellent. Now it is my pleasure to introduce and welcome back our speaker this afternoon, Indira León, with a topic, the role of teachers in the ever-evolving classroom. Indira is an experienced English instructor with over 20 years of teaching all CEFR levels. She has guided students from their very first steps in learning English all the way to achieving international certifications. She has also worked as a proctor and examiner for exams such as ECCE, ECPE, and DELE, and has been invited as a guest speaker for Nat Geo Learning in different cities across Peru. She is currently pursuing a master's degree in education at UPC University, while working as academic support at the Language Center of Ricardo Palma University, and as a teacher trainer in the specialization program in English language teaching. So without further ado, let's give Ms. Leon a very warm welcome.
Thank you very much, Geraldine. Thank you very much for this introduction. Yes, here I am. Thank you very much, Geraldine. Thank you to... Thanks to SBS Librería Internacional for this opportunity and for creating these spaces to exchange ideas, to update our knowledge and different techniques. Of course, thank you to Ricardo Palma University for having me today here with you. And of course, thank you, all the attendees, to this first presentation of the TDC 2025 Lima Edition. Today, we will be sharing some ideas about the role of teachers in this changing world, in this ever-evolving classroom. But I would like it to be dynamic, so I'm going to ask for your help through the comments or through a QR code in part of the presentation so that I can get to read some of your ideas and experiences as well. So let's get started. That's it. the role of teachers in the ever-evolving classroom. Now, in this case, we are going to, this is going to be our agenda. Yes. To guide today's presentation. The evolution of teaching. We're going to briefly see how teaching and education has changed. We'll have an overview of teacher roles and their meaning. Yes, what the roles entail. And finally, actually with each role, we will see the application in class. What specific ideas, what specific techniques we can apply in our classes so that we can foster and embody these roles. To start with this presentation, actually, I have to make a confession. There is a comment that I sometimes hear, and I find this comment upsetting. I don't know if that has happened to you as well, but I hear people saying sometimes, yeah, education has not changed. All the fields, all the industries have changed except for education. Education has not changed. And teachers continue doing the same thing they've been doing for the last 150 years. And I find that shocking. I don't know how you feel about that, but I have to admit, I find it a little bit upsetting. So what I would like to start with is a video, a short video showing how much or how little the education has changed. Here it goes. As you watch it, please see how much it has actually changed.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Mr. Jessup.
Meet Mr. Jessup. He's a teacher, so I can't reveal his first name.
It's Matt.
What?
My first name is Matt. I don't mind if you use it.
Oh, okay. Well, Matt, or Mr. Jessup to his students, has been a teacher for 7 years.
So today's lesson is going to be about computational thinking. So in the middle of... I wanted to be a teacher because I wanted to have a career that was very sociable. I wanted to have a career which makes a difference in children's lives.
Teaching has always been one of the most important jobs around, but it's a role that has changed quite a bit over the years.
Any questions? Nick, you had one.
For starters, early Aussie schools were all run by the church. It wasn't until 1849 that the first public school was opened. And back then, teachers were a lot stricter. Every morning, they would check students' nails, hair, and teeth to make sure they were clean.
The insolence of that child.
And teachers were allowed to use a cane to hit children who were playing up.
Strokes of the cane.
Classrooms looked pretty different as well. There were no computers, and pens looked like this. You had to dip them into inkwells to write. There were also lessons on how to keep your back straight, and boys and girls had different subjects they had to study. Home economics for the girls and wood and metal work for the boys. And up until the 1940s, most kids left school when they were 14.
The engineering problem they're solving would take an experience.
But over the years, schools changed. And so did the way teachers taught.
We'll have the time of our life.
Today, there are all sorts of classrooms and teachers. Some schools are bilingual, which means lessons are taught in 2 different languages. And some lessons can take place without a teacher having to be in the same room.
On to Max.
What animal they want?
Yep, an animal, that's correct.
Teachers are now educated at university, and they work hard to find the best way to help kids to learn.
These days, it's more common for children to negotiate with you about what they want to work in and what their interests are and what they would like to do. What does Move It Forward mean?
And Mr. Jessup's class reckon he's doing a pretty good job.
Well, he likes to engage us in our learning, makes it fun, and does most activities in groups, which allows us to collaborate and have fun while we're learning.
Previously with other teachers, I haven't liked maths a lot because I'm not very good at it, but with Mr. Jessup, he's really helped me and he makes maths really fun and easy to understand.
He's fun, he's kind, he can teach you things while not making it feel like really hard, sit down, work.
You possibly could. Do you know what the best thing to do would be? Is to try it.
Okay. So, has education changed? I think, yes, teachers have changed. In the past, back in the day, addressing teachers by title and last name was the norm. Yes, it wasn't even possible to reveal the teacher's first name, right? But today we have a totally different situation. We have a closer relationship with students, and in some cases, depending on how it is the culture in your school, they can address you by the first name. Now, there used to be differentiated subjects, remember, for girls, home economics, home ec, but for boys, wood and metal work. Now, that's not the situation anymore. Everybody studies the same subjects, everybody has the same opportunities. And if there are different subjects, it's because of their interests, not because of their gender. And back in the day, teachers used to be very strict, even physical, right? Did you see that teacher walking with a cane? That is not a thing anymore. That's a big no-no. Now we listen, teachers listen, they negotiate, and as we saw in the video, sometimes our students have the possibility to negotiate what they want to do, what topics they want to talk about, depending on their interests. So teachers have changed a lot, right? But probably the people that say, no, teachers continue doing the same thing they've been doing for the last 150 years, it's because they see us doing some similar things. Like, for example, correcting homework or bringing work home or marking exams. So they have the idea that our role has not changed. But actually, they are getting confused. They're getting two terms confused: duties and roles. Yes. So when we talk about duties, we think about the things we have to do, part of our job. It's the list of tasks that we have to do as teachers. But when we talk about roles, we talk about our identity. It's the set of values that we embody as teachers. And it goes beyond the list of duties. What are some of the typical duties associated to our job? Planning lessons. Yes, that's probably the first thing that comes to mind. When we think of planning lessons, we think of objectives. Yes, setting an objective and making sure that objective is aligned with the national curriculum, yes, of basic education of Peru. We think of timing activities, looking for specific material for these activities and making sure there's a smooth transition from activity to activity, timing them. When we plan lessons, we also anticipate problems, yes, and we think of possible solutions or alternatives ahead of time. So planning lessons is a very complex activity. It's part of our duties, of course. Something else that we have to do as teachers is assess and give feedback. As we already know, assessment could be formative as part of their learning process, or it could be summative assessment at the end of a specific period or to get a certification. Yeah, sometimes we prepare our students for international exams. And feedback is usually given all throughout the process of learning. Remember, feedback that feeds forward, feedback that has their progress. Yes, we have to mention what they have done right. Feedback also includes corrective feedback, that is the specific things that they have done wrong, the things they have to correct, but also the strategies they need to correct those mistakes. That's the whole view of feedback. What is another duty that we have as teachers? We have to keep records of attendance and progress. not only because it's something we are required to do, but also because keeping records of attendance gives us the possibility to see patterns of absenteeism, and if necessary, we can make early interventions so that our students can continue making progress in their learning. Now, we also have to communicate with parents or guardians. Yes, of course, we have to communicate with parents or guardians to let them know how their kids are, but also because it's important to build partnerships. Yes, we have to build alliances with parents and guardians and families, because as we know, education doesn't only happen at school. Education is built, it's constructed with all the experiences our students have. And of course, very important experiences take place at home. So we want to keep close communication with parents to see that those values and practices are aligned so that their learning, our students' learning, is consistent. Now, I have a question. Maybe you can use the comment section, the comment box. Which of these duties is the one that takes the longest? Which one is more time consuming in your opinion? That's question number one. And question number two, can you mention any other duty that is not in the list? What other duty can you think of that is not in the list? So those are the two questions. Any additional duty that you can think of, drop it in the comment section. And which of these four do you think is more time consuming? I read you in the comments. Let's see. We have, yes, Brigida says we need to adapt to different kinds of resources in order to improve our knowledge. Thank you very much. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Maria del Carmen says adapting to diverse learners. Absolutely right. And we are going to be talking about that as well. Assessment and giving feedback takes the longest. Yes, okay. Assessment and giving feedback is what Mercedes says. Lesson planning. Liliana Rodriguez, lesson planning. Milagros says lesson plans. Cindy Delgado, giving feedback. Yes, because sometimes it has to be personalized. Assessment and lesson planning. Oh, this is surprising. Rosa Maria says, attendance is definitely time consuming. That's interesting. I think it depends a lot on the number of students we have in class. Of course, realities are different as well. Interesting. I didn't see that coming. Sara Mesa says, parents communication. Yeah, it takes a lot of time to communicate with parents. And it's time and energy consuming, but it's worth it. Thank you very much for your ideas. So this is what we have in mind when we think of duties. What happens with roles? When we think of roles, as we said earlier, what we have in mind is the values that we embody as teachers and something that goes beyond the tasks, right? And I would like you to think of this word when we think of roles, of famine core. Of famine core. Yeah, I know it sounds like big pharma, or it sounds like maybe an international corporation. Yes, but as you might have guessed already, it is an acronym of famine core, and this stands for some of the roles that we have as teachers. O stands for observer. Fa, probably you can write it in the comments too. Facilitator. Men, mentor. co-learner, and R, role model. We're going to see each of them in detail, and we are going to have some ideas how they look in class. The first one is O, observer. Observing our students' academic needs, for example, before we make any specific adjustments, before we are ready to readapt, first we have to observe. We have to observe our students' context, our students' realities, our students' academic needs. Yes. We can conduct at the beginning of a period an academic needs analysis, or we can just observe what their strengths are in terms of linguistic competence. We also need to observe them in terms of likes, experiences, and preferences. We usually conduct these activities that are get to know you. Yes, these getting to know you activities with questions such as, are you a cat person or a dog person? Do you have any pets? Have you lived in another city or country? And you as a teacher can be part of this activity as well, so that they can get to know you a little bit. And we have to see our students in all their dimensions. For example, their social dimension. We need to observe how they interact, who they talk with, who their friends are, how they interact with each other, because that gives us a lot of information on how we are going to approach the strategies and their learning, what approach we're going to use. We also have to observe our students in their cultural and spiritual dimension, because that gives us information and that helps us see what they value, what is important for them, and what is part of their identity. I remember there was a student who told me, teacher, tomorrow I'm not coming to class. But first of all, she wanted to know if there was any evaluation, any summative assessment to be exact. Because she said, teacher, my family and I are thurifers. Like in the picture, the people that carry and swing incense in the procession. And it's very important for us. So I'm going to be absent tomorrow. And the first reaction could have been like, but your education is important as well. But once again, education is constructed with different experiences our students have. So it's a matter of seeing and observing what they need, what is important for them, and how we can balance, how can we integrate that in their learning. And only recently, maybe a couple of days ago, I had a student. She's still a school student, and she told me, teacher, I'm afraid after I graduate, I'm afraid I might not do things right because, I'm an Adventist and I'm checking all the universities, and in the first year, there are classes on Saturdays. And we don't do anything on Saturdays. We are prohibited. So I don't know what I'm going to do. So their cultural and spiritual dimension is very important, and we can make it part of the learning process. We can consider it. And of course, last but not least, their emotional dimension. As part of these changes in times, as part of this evolving classroom, all of us have seen how things have changed since the pandemic, for example. Due to the pandemic, our students have been exposed to screens a lot more. They have been isolated. Now they tend to isolate more, and social interaction is more difficult for them, and it triggers anxiety sometimes. And some of them have been exposed to cyberbullying. So we have to be ready to observe how their emotions are regulated so that we can readapt once again our practices to meet their needs. But being an observer is not just being an observer of our students. Just as we can see in the picture, being an observer is also observing ourselves, like in the mirror, because there are factors that condition our practices. For example, personal factors. Yes, depending on our generation, we behave and in a certain way. We have certain preferences. Depending on our personality, we have this or that attitude. And let's say, for example, if we are a 20-year-old teacher, yes, we might have an easier time relating to students, but we might have to work harder on classroom management, for example. So we have to be aware of those personal factors. We also have to observe our training. As we saw in the video, back in the day, the church was responsible for education, but it's been a long time that teachers have received formal education at institutions in formal programs like the one we have at Ricardo Palma University. We have a specialization program in English language teaching, and that is a great opportunity to exchange ideas and exchange experiences that enrich our practices. Training is exactly what we are doing right now. Yes, as part of our continuing education, attending seminars, training sessions like the ones organized by SBS is also what is going to keep us updated and aware of the new trends, aware of the new changes we have to make in class. And our attitude. We have to observe our attitude as well. Gone are the days when the teacher was the one that had the knowledge and the most important figure in the classroom. Now we are co-learners, as we will see later. So our healthy mental attitude, our healthy mindset is going to contribute positively to our classes. Now, the next role is that of a facilitator. But before we talk about what we can do as facilitators or what you already do as facilitators, let's talk about the reality we have in Peru. A couple of years ago, the group of analysis for development, or GRADE, as we call them in Spanish, grade, that would be by the initials or for the initials in Spanish, they wrote an article that was based on a research they had conducted in 2023, in which they did an extensive research. They did an extensive research in Peru. It was nationwide on different schools. And what they found was what they call shallow pedagogies. Shallow pedagogies. But what are they? They are lessons with little to no critical thinking. They are disconnected from students' experiences and do not encourage them to problematize reality nor to grasp complexity. So what they basically found is students who knew the theory, yes, they knew how to repeat concepts, but when they were asked to give an example from their real life, they were unable to do so. And they found discrepancies from the reality and the knowledge they saw at school, and it didn't make noise to them. That discrepancy, it was okay for them. So in this article, what they said is that these shallow pedagogies are a form of injustice because our students need to be active participants in their education, and our students need to contribute as equals. I mean, they have to, in equal conditions, consume and produce knowledge. They have to participate in this process of consumption and production of knowledge. And keeping our pedagogies and our lessons shallow prevent them from doing that. So, and this is very recent. The report is from 2024. The research was conducted in 2023. So this is something recent that's still happening here in our country. They also mentioned that this is a form of injustice because you know that realities and students' contexts are totally different. So some students have more access to technology than others, but there are some students who have the school as the main source of knowledge. So they have to be exposed to diversity and critical thinking in that space in our schools. And because they don't have technology or they don't have much access to technology, or at least very limited, they are being deprived of this possibility. So that's the situation that we have so far. What can we do? As facilitators, we have to create opportunities for critical thinking and thought-provoking questions. One of the things that they found, or one of the examples that they found, is that, for example, they were talking about bullying in school, and they saw that there were many signs and flyers and slogans against bullying. But one of the students said, yeah, but my classmates mock me for my accent. I am from Ayacucho. Yes. So opportunities for them to express those feelings and for them to see the similarities and differences between what they receive as knowledge and as communication and what they actually see as a reality. Creating those opportunities in class is necessary. We can also design learning experiences with tools in class and at home. Because remember, now, as part of these changes in time, our students are more exposed to technology, and technology is changing rapidly. So in class, we have to create activities and we have to expose them to activities that allow them to think if that source is reliable, if that information is something I believe, if that is something safe, a safe place to go to, or to be exploring. As a facilitator, we can also help them navigate intercultural contexts in a collaborative way. Now, when we think of intercultural contexts, some people might think, yeah, but all my students are from Lima. Yeah, that's okay. But if we think about their parents, or if we make them think about their grandparents, chances are we are going to find migration patterns. It's important to create an opportunity in class for them to think about that and notice differences. These differences or this diversity could also be generational. I remember not so long ago, I had a class in which we were talking about the past, and specifically we were talking about used to. Yes, we were using this grammar structure to talk about previous activities or things in the past that are not true anymore. So I planned to first ask them to take pictures when they were little, and I had to bring my own picture, of course. But I wanted to go beyond, because when we have memories of our childhood, they are one way, but our caregivers, mother, father, grandparents, probably they have a different memory. Probably they remember things in a different way. So I wanted them to talk to their caregivers to see if the memory was similar. So on my end, what I did was I planned the previous day, of course, I planned to call my mother in the middle of the class. The call had to last 2 minutes, 3 minutes tops. I was going to put her on speaker so that my students could talk to my mother. And it worked beautifully. Fortunately, it worked really well. So I put my mother on speaker, and she doesn't speak English, of course, it had to be in Spanish. But many students were very curious, and they started asking lots of questions about my childhood. When the call ended, they had to share their ideas. Yes, of course, we translated the questions, how were those questions in English, etc. But I wanted them to think about their memories and their caregivers' memories and share them in class, share them as a group. One student kept thinking, and he called me, "Teacher, I used to believe in God, but now I don't have the same belief, and we have arguments sometimes with my parents because of that." So I had not planned for that, to go that deep, but that activity created an intergenerational, or at least shed some light in this intergenerational gap, this generational gap, or beliefs, right? His parents were very religious, but he didn't feel the same way anymore. We can create opportunities for that in class. And I also mentioned here that it's in a collaborative way, because you know that sometimes we ask them to work in groups, and that is not enough. Working in groups is not enough for them to actually collaborate. So later on in our next role, we're going to see what we can do to help them work collaboratively. What else can we do? We can encourage problem solving with effective communication. I think it was a couple of days ago, I was listening to Hernan Casiari. He's an Argentinian journalist, and also he's a storyteller. And he was sharing, in this program, he was sharing his experience telling bedtime stories to his daughter. He said that he loved to do, he still loves to do that. And once he was telling her the story of Hansel and Gretel. And he was like, and they left breadcrumbs, but then a bird came and ate them, so they didn't know the way back home, and they were scared. And his daughter was like, okay. And then he tried to change his voice and say, but they were scared because it was in the middle of the forest and they didn't know their way back. And his daughter went, but what's the problem? They should just send a text, a WhatsApp message to their dad with their location so that he can come pick them up. And then he realized, of course, kids today do not know how to solve a problem without a cell phone. Everything is solved with this connectivity. So, and he reflected on that and he said, can you imagine all the fairy tales, all these stories, if you inserted a cell phone in the story? The magic would disappear. Yes, the tension of the story would disappear. And he said, can you imagine Romeo and Juliet? Romeo wouldn't have unalived himself if Juliet had sent him a message. I'm just going to pretend to be dead, but I'm actually going to be alive. Don't do anything. So he started telling this story, and it got me thinking, maybe we can do something similar in class. We can encourage problem solving, tense problems, without technology, while keeping effective communication. Because when there's a problem, there's tension, there's a time limit, and sometimes we are not assertive. We can be a little bit aggressive at times. So, creating opportunities for them to solve problems without technology is an excellent exercise for them to use their creative juices. And because in reality, there could be a power outage and they should be able to still solve problems. Okay, so how can we apply this facilitator role? In this activity, what we are looking at is a vocabulary activity from the book Impact by National Geographic, Nat Geo Learning. It's Unit 6, Mix and Mash. What they are doing here is they are talking about DJs and bands that mix traditional instruments with modern music. Yes? And remember, the book has a great potential. The materials we have right now as teachers have a great potential, but they still need you. The material needs the teachers for this personalization, for bringing this knowledge to life, and for it to be meaningful for your students. So the book suggests this. What types of music do you like? Discuss, then listen and read. Of course, you can do that in class, but as an alternative, you can do a Padlet. Yes, you can create a Padlet with my favorite music, and you give them the QR code or you put the link in the LMS if you have it in class, and you ask them to share their favorite kinds of music there so they can link the song as well. So I love Latin music or I love rock music, and they can specifically link one song or one artist. That way, all the class has the possibility to see that Padlet and to see if there are similarities between their likes. And it becomes more meaningful because there's a specific example. Now, the book, well, in the second part, it says learn new words, listen and repeat. But the third stage says choose 5 vocabulary words, write a question using each word. Then ask a partner your questions. You can ask them to prepare these questions, or you can ask them to use the Padlet as well to interact there, to react to the post, and to write their questions there. That way, one student can receive multiple questions, and there's more opportunity for recycling the vocabulary that is the target vocabulary of this activity. And then step 4, the book suggests work in pairs. Why do you think some musicians mix new and traditional music? Do you think it's a good idea to do this? Why or why not? Of course, you can ask them to work in pairs and share their ideas, but you can also transform these into a class debate. Yes, one side of the class thinks it's a good idea and another side of the class thinks it's not a good idea. You ask them to look for reasons for and against, and they can use material from the Padlet. They can use specific examples to illustrate their position. That way, that activity comes to life. That activity becomes more meaningful, and you are exposing them to different kinds of activities that foster critical thinking, that help them work their critical abilities. Now, this next activity is from Unit 4 from the book Imagine. This is for little ones. And in this activity, the title of the unit is How is it made? They are talking about the passive voice in the context of food. So it's listen and repeat, Yes, it says burn, cardboard, cool. They have lots of vocabulary. In activity B, they have how to make jam, and they have to complete with the vocabulary from the previous activity. And then they have to listen to the description, yes, of Annie Griffiths. She's a National Geographic photographer, so they can use vocabulary, etc., etc. They are talking about food. How can you personalize this? What is everybody talking about right now? Yes, breakfast. Everybody's talking about breakfast. So this could be a suggestion to make it more personal and more relevant and to connect it to something they see every day. Now, I would like to read some of your comments. What activities can you do to connect it to breakfast, the topic they are seeing right now? Remember, as facilitators, we need to foster critical thinking, collaboration. We have to give them thought-provoking questions. We have to help them become aware of diversity. Yes. So what can they do? I read you in the comments. Yes, Peruvian breakfast, says Cecilia Llerena. Yes, of course. Healthy food and junk food, of course, Violeta. Thank you. Thank you. That's true. You can also talk about healthy or unhealthy food. That's another topic. Yes. This is a girl, in this case, more than competition, to me, it is a great opportunity to appreciate diversity. What do you think? To follow a recipe, of course, recipes. Liliana Arteaga says fusion breakfast. Yes. Absolutely. Thank you very much for your ideas. Thank you. Okay. Do you have your cell phones with you, my friends? I would like to ask you a question, and I would love to read some of the words that come to mind. The question says, what words come to your mind when you think about a mentor? We are going to start with our next role, being a mentor. But I would like you to think about a mentor you've had or a mentor you still have. What words come to mind when you think of that person? Please scan this QR code and share some of the words or phrases, short phrases that come to mind when you think of that person. You can send words more than once. Guide, thank you. Motivator, yes, absolutely. Who's a mentor? What words come to mind when you think of a mentor? Feel free to send your answers more than once. More than once. A guide, a motivator. Scan the QR code. Inspiration, leader, facilitator, admiration and respect. Many people have written guide. An example, model, a coach, confident, experience, someone who guides you. Someone who guides you, a leader. Admiration and respect. That's right. Motivator, role model. Excellent. Experience. Experience. Someone you admire. Yes. Exactly. Thank you very much. I'm happy to see all these words because when we think of a mentor, When we have had a mentor, we tend to behave in a similar way. We want to be the same way for other people. So I'm sure you want to be an excellent coach. You want to be wise. You want to inspire your students. You want to be a model for them. You want to lead them. You want to guide them. You want to be an advisor. Thank you very much for your answers. So, how can you be all these ideas that you are sharing and that you are seeing on the screen? How can you be all these for your students? First, help them identify their strengths. To give them that confidence that you wrote about, help them identify their strengths. Remember, some minutes ago, we said that asking them to work in groups doesn't guarantee collaboration. Collaboration entails sharing or contributing with your expertise. You can contribute with your knowledge, expertise, or talent. If your students don't know what they are good at, how can they contribute? How can they collaborate? So, as a mentor, we can help them discover or become aware of their strengths. How? By talking to them or by asking them what they like to do, what they could spend hours doing. Chances are that is closely related to one talent or ability they have. Another way in which you can help them identify their strengths is by exposing them to different activities. Yes, one activity could be a debate, or so that you can see who's better with words, who can paraphrase, who has a stronger vocabulary baggage. Or you can ask them to express things visually. You can ask them to perform something, or you can ask them to reflect individually. And then you observe, what are they good at? Sometimes some students can identify that easily, but others don't. That is when you come in as a mentor. You can help them discover their strengths. Of course, you can always celebrate their progress. You can celebrate their progress on a one-to-one basis when you give them feedback, yes? Or you can ask them to reflect about the things they did right and give themselves a good pat in the back, because that is important to encourage themselves. Or you can celebrate their progress collectively, because it is so rewarding when your peers acknowledge something you did right. You can create that space in your classroom. And you can support their learning autonomy by helping them set goals, realistic goals, and little by little asking them to make it a little bit more challenging, and then a little bit more challenging. And you can also be a mentor by helping them become more autonomous through metacognitive skills. But how can you foster metacognitive skills in class? We're going to watch a quick video, and I would like you to think about some of those questions or things we can do.
Giving students the metacognitive skills to manage their own learning so they're active participants rather than passive bystanders sets them up to become self-sufficient learners. The good news is that metacognition can be explicitly taught and practiced across content areas and grade levels. As students get to work on a new lesson or study for a test, encourage them to think about their preparation. They should start by asking themselves questions like, am I prepared to learn? Am I in a clean, quiet space? Is my phone stashed away? Teach them to identify what they already know about the topic and where their gaps are. Learning is more durable when it's built on a solid foundation, so ask them to sketch out a simple concept map to make thinking visible, or tap into prior knowledge with a quick write in a learning journal. As they study, students should actively monitor their learning, asking themselves questions like, am I taking notes on the most important information? Are there concepts I don't really understand? Should I ask the teacher for help? When they get bogged down in their learning, teach them strategies to course correct. For example, they can stop briefly to identify the muddiest point. It's a simple exercise where students pause to share the idea from the lesson that remains the most confusing. This helps them develop self-awareness about what they don't understand and reminds them to slow down and seek clarifying information before carrying on. Research shows that students often overestimate how prepared they are for tests, so it's crucial that students validate their learning. Teach them strategies to review and assess their learning independently. To demonstrate fluency, they can try a think, pair, share activity, teaching what they know to a friend or classmate, or jot down their top 3 takeaways on index cards. If they stumble as they share back their learning, have them do a retrospective, asking questions like what gaps in my knowledge were revealed? What could I have done differently? Did I skimp on any stages in my learning journey? By giving students an approach to think about their own thinking, you'll be setting them up to be independent learners in your classroom and beyond.
Okay. So, what can we do in class to foster metacognitive skills? The first phase, plan through reflection. Our students can ask themselves, am I in a clean, quiet space? Is my phone stashed away? Now with so many distractions, we can little by little make them aware of these practices so that they can replicate them at home. The idea of a mentor is to make our students more independent, yes, by helping them practice this in class. What do I already know? A mentor is also someone who gives you confidence, as you wrote in the word cloud. And sometimes students forget what they have already accomplished and they just focus on what is ahead. So, as a mentor, you help them get the full picture. Phase 2, monitor their progress. They can ask themselves, am I taking notes on the most important thing? And sometimes, depending on the school, they might or might not have access to cell phones during class, but many people easily take pictures. Even if it's just 2 words on the board, they tend to take pictures and they don't pause and actually see what is important and what is just a detail. By taking notes, they are forced to practice that skill to determine this is important. I can take notes of this. This is just supporting what I already took notes of. So this is something they can do on their own as well. Should I ask for a help? Because, of course, the help can come from a teacher, but it can also come from other sources, from peers, from books. I'm stuck. Should I pause? We have to emphasize that this is inevitable. They will find this feeling sooner or later. It's okay. It's okay. We should let them know that there are ways to approach this feeling. At first, they can pause. They can break things into smaller parts because this strategy will serve them for life. Encourage validation of knowledge. That is in phase 3. For example, I'll teach a classmate, or I'll do think, pair, share, or what gaps do I still have? All of these practices constantly in class will make our lessons deeper, not shallow. The next role, co-learner. I'm checking the time. First, admit you don't know. It's uncomfortable, I know. Nobody likes to admit they don't know something, but it will eventually happen. And as a co-learner, you learn along students. But first, we have to admit we don't know something. The advantage is that you can show them how to find the information because you don't know something. That happens to me, for example, when we have to talk about video games. I know nothing about video games. They are my source of information. And after the activity is finished, reflect on what was learned and how it was learned. Once again, because if you model it in class, they can replicate it at home. Once again, as I said, this is an example, Minecraft. If there's a topic of video games and I say, I know nothing about it, explain that to me. Since they have all the information in Spanish, they get excited, but they lack vocabulary and they want to be able to explain it, explain that to the teacher in this case. So what I ask them is, okay, let's pause. How would I find that information online? Maybe I Google basic rules to play Minecraft. Why do I want to model this? Because sometimes our students, to find information, they go online, but they look for the information in Spanish. And that is a great opportunity that was missed, to read information in English. If they know how to enter the prompt in English, the result will come back in English. So if I type basic rules to play Minecraft, they start reading with me. Not stealing, destroying other place. Yes, teacher, you have to destroy this. And it's a game. And they start looking at the vocabulary. And they go, yeah, teacher, you have to get cobblestones. I didn't know how to say this. If it was get, buy, etc. Yes, of course, that's just an example. And after that, we reflect on what we did and how we found the answers. Now, our last role is that of a role model. For this, I chose a quote that I think explains what it means to be a role model pretty accurately. It is this: what you are speaks so loudly that I cannot hear what you say. By Ralph Waldo Emerson. Once again, because I really love it. What you are speaks so loudly that I cannot hear what you say. So being a role model is embodying these values. The values that we want to see in our students and the values that we want to see in our society, they are not a simple instruction. They are a culture that has to be lived in the classroom. It's a culture that has to be lived in the school so that they can internalize the message and actually imitate it. So how can you be a role model? By showing respectful behavior and attitude, by listening to all the voices. When they are talking to you, are we paying attention? Are we doing something else? Are we texting? Are we just packing things? Or are we paying full attention to what they have to say? Little details matter a lot. We can also regulate our emotions. And in this picture, I'm not referring to the kid who's throwing a tantrum. How do we, teachers, react in stressful moments? We are human beings, but our students are looking at us at every single moment. So if we keep calm and collected under stress, they will imitate that behavior. And of course, last but not least, we have to consider lifelong learning. What you are doing exactly in this moment, continuing education, showing curiosity when there is a topic, when a topic that we don't know emerges, how curious are you about that new topic? Okay, conclusions. 1, constant observation of our students' context facilitates adaptation of our roles. our roles of FAMIN Core: observer, facilitator, mentor, co-learner, and role model, invite us to connect knowledge with reality. And I would like to leave you just with a final thought. Some people say that teaching is a little bit like parenting. I don't know if you agree with that. But those of you who are parents might remember that first moment when you held your baby in your arms for the first time, all the emotions and the great sense of responsibility that probably invaded you. Now, teachers, it's true, we don't have the same duties as a parent, but in terms of roles, they're very similar. Every time we welcome a new class, we receive a great responsibility. We are receiving our society's trust. Our society trusts us with their education, with their future, with their dreams. And as times continue to change and continue to evolve, I am sure that you will continue to readjust and readapt your roles to meet their needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was very inspiring. One of the roles. Thank you, Indira. We want to ask our audience if they have any questions for you. I'm sure they do. If not, we could chat a little bit about all these roles that you have inspired us with. But let's see if they have any questions.
Sure, my pleasure.
I would say, though, that we have an advantage over parents because we know that we won't have them forever, that they will go. And sometimes parents have more trouble letting their children go. But yeah.
Yes, we have a different perspective from their education, which complements with what parents have. Yes, that's true, Geraldine. I totally agree.
Oh yeah, responsibility. We see some comments. I don't know if we have any questions. We've had over 200 people connected, which is great. Yeah, amazing, excited. A lot of people participating. Thank you for making also this session interactive using Slido and videos and chat box. I see just lots of thanks.
Thank you. It means the world to me. Those comments mean the world to me.
So I think that you are leading the way into this that we need. Observer, right? Facilitator.
Yes, that's right.
Mentor, co-learner, and role model.
Exactly. Those are the ones I could summarize because I'm sure if we talk to teachers, they will mention a lot more. It's a high responsibility. It's a great responsibility too.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I will just join the teachers thanking you once more time. One more time, sorry. And well, so sorry that we don't have any questions, but I don't know, maybe you want to end up with some final words?
No, sure. I just wanted to once again thank SBS Librería Internacional and thank Ricardo Palma University for creating this space. It's a great opportunity to exchange ideas, to get to read some of the comments from teachers. Thank you, Geraldine, for the very kind welcome. And of course, to invite everyone again for tomorrow's session. Tomorrow we continue.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Indira, again. And well, we have reached then the end of the virtual session of TDC 2025. And we want to sincerely thank you, Indira, again from Universidad Ricardo Palma for your participation. We also extend our gratitude to Of course, you, the teachers, this international community of English teachers who joined us with the goal of expanding their knowledge and enhancing their educational practice, as well as to the team SBS for making this event possible. Please remember that tomorrow the in-person event will take place. So we look forward to welcoming you if you're here in Lima. Finally, note that registration is required to receive your certificate of attendance. There's a pinned comment here if you haven't registered. So do it now and hopefully see you tomorrow. Thank you, everybody, for your participation.